Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Class 47P2 YouTube channel, and you're joining me once again at my model railway, Vauxhall Junction. And in today's video, this is going to be part 2 of rebuilding the tunnel. So we'll be picking up where we left off from in part 1. So today's video is going to be about relaying the narrow gauge track for the narrow gauge railway. There will be a third part which will be focusing on the scenery, because I don't just want to do just 2 parts and showing the second part, relaying all the narrow gauge track and then showing all the scenery being done, because I don't want to rush this at the end of the day with the amount of work that's gone into the tunnel already. I don't want to rush this, I want it to look right and I want it to be better than the last one. So this part, it will be about relaying the OO9 track for the narrow gauge railway, and then in part 3 that's when we'll make a start on the scenery. So this is the workbench. You have to excuse it being rather messy at the moment, but as you can see on here we have all the OO9 track ready to go back on. I've got my 5 narrow gauge locomotives, then I've got various other bits and bobs, so I've got to start sorting through all this now. So I've sorted through all that OO9 track. Some of them still have bits of old ballast in them, but that doesn't matter because they can still be used. Now, I don't know if I'm going to use all of this track yet, because from last time I'm going to go for a slightly different idea for the OO9 track upon the tunnel. Slightly different layout, we should say, rather, for the narrow gauge railway, for at least upon the tunnel. So it might mean that some of this track might not get used and will be spares, but we'll have to wait and see. I have got an idea up in my head, but I won't just rush in and nail this all down or fasten it all together. I'll have a play around with it and then come up with an idea that I like, and then that can then be put on the tunnel. So after a few hours of fettling around and sorting through the track, this is a track plan of what we've come up with. Now most of the track has been fixed together, and I say most of it because we have run out of fish plates. Slightly annoying, because I was able to pull off some of the fish plates on some of the other bits of spare OO9 track that we have, but for some reason trying to salvage and reuse other fish plates from other pieces of track, for some reason they just simply wouldn't budge. So I have had to go out and buy more fish plates, but you know, you got to do what you got to do. We need more fish plates, so we went out and bought some. And they're not really too expensive either, they're only £2.50 a pack. So it is going to be a day or so before the fish plates arrive in the post. So it is going to take a little while before we can finish off the track, but as I say, most of it has been relayed. So the track plan that we've gone for this time, up here we have what's going to be a depot for the locomotives, and then here we have a siding which I can use to store wagons or even coaches in. I've still got plenty of adequate space, as you can see, all along here for scenery, but that's to worry about for another part. And so overall I'm actually quite really pleased with this track layout for the narrow gauge railway. So a day or two later, the fish plates have arrived. So these are made by Pico. There's the product code SL310, and these are the fish plates or rail joiners, whichever you choose to call them. And these are for both OO9 track and N-gauge track. So now that the fish blades have arrived, I can now finish off connecting up all the track, and then we'll get it nailed down, and then we'll be ready to do a test run on it. Okay, so all the track has now been fastened together. Do excuse the rain, it's just typical that I'm out here finishing off connecting the track and then the heavens decides to open. So with all the track now connected up, all I need to do now really is to nail the track down and test it. So I think what we'll do first is we'll test the track out and then nail it down. So I've decided I'm going to nail the track first before I test it. So I have had a change of plan. I've already nailed down a couple of pieces already. And the reason I'm doing this now is because, well, if you look at bits like that over there, sections, they're lifting up in the air like that, it might mean that a train, when it goes over it, it might not run as well on it. Or because when I find that when the track is loose, when it's not nailed down, it can also be loose, so it could be that when a train goes over it, it might actually push the tracks apart, as I have had that in my experience. So I might as well get the track nailed down first and then test it. Okay peeps, so all the track has now been nailed down. So now what I've got to do is just test the track to see if it works. And the locomotive that I'm going to be using to test the track is Baldwin Class 1012D 778. So as you've just seen, all the track has been tested and it all works, so that's great to see. That's exactly what we want to see, especially the sidings. We haven't had to solder any bits of wire to other pieces of track like it was last time, and so that's made me happy that the track's been tested and it's all working fine. And this loco was serviced as well prior to it having the test run, because it is important to service these models, especially the OO9 ones, because at the end of the day they only have small wheels and rods. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to give all my other locos a test run on this track up here, just as a bit of a bonus. So now that we know that the tracks work, I'm now going to turn my attention to start ballasting. And for this, I'm going to first of all start off by ballasting the tracks and what's going to be the engine shed. Now instead of using a normal ballast, what I'm going to do is I'm going to instead use black calcium sand, and this is what I'm going to be using for the ballasting the tracks on the engine shed. I've also used this for real coal loads as well, because it's scale wise it's actually really good. It's a lot better to scale than just trying to smash up real coal, to be honest. But also I intend to use it to ballast the tracks on the engine shed, because I want to give it that proper engine shed feel, that steam shed. So all the black calcium sand can sort of represent all the ash and dirt and perhaps various bits of coal on the place. You get the idea. Okay, so the calcium sand has been ballasted down and it has been glued down as well, and I have left this for a few days just to allow the glue enough time to dry, and it has set, as you can see. So all I've got to do now is to test this bit of track to make sure that the trains, the locomotives, can run on this without fault. So all the tracks, as you just saw, are working, but you will not believe how many takes it has taken to get to the point where I can literally show you guys that all three tracks are working. as soon as you point a camera, it suddenly decides that it doesn't want to play. Don't you just love model railways, eh? But all the tracks are now working, so that's good. So the fleet of narrow gauge locomotives are now in the sidings. This will soon be an engine shed. I still don't know quite how I'm going to do the engine shed yet. I think it's more than likely going to end up being a scratch built one, if I'm honest. It would be nice if someone made a kit of a OO9 3-row narrow gauge shed. That would be something quite nice to see and to build. So I'm probably going to try a different method, to be honest, than last time of building the narrow gauge shed, because the last one I scratch built was a bit crude in places. So it will take a bit of thinking of how I'm going to do the shed. But the track's been ballasted with the black calcium sand, so now I'm going to concentrate on ballasting the main track. And so I'm going to be using some finer ballast, which the majority of this track elsewhere on the narrow gauge railway uses. So that's the sort of ballast I'm going to be using, but I've got to get some more because I haven't got any left, so I've got to go away and do that. So all that's left to do now for this area is to ballast it. And so that's where this stuff comes in. This is a Woodland Scenics ballast shaker, and this is full of the fine ballast. This is B1374 light grey. You can buy bags of this ballast, but I went for a ballast shaker because not only is there more ballast in there, but it means that way I know that I've got more than enough to be ballasting all of the track rather than buying bags, and also that way saves a bit of money as well, having to keep going out and buying bags. But I'm not going to be showing you ballasting the track on camera because I've done this before in a past video, and there are other videos out there on ballasting, so I'm not going to be doing the ballasting on camera. Okay, so all the ballasting has now been done. So all the tracks have now been ballasted. And so I'm rather happy with that. So all I've got to do now really is to let the ballast dry. Well, let the glue dry, I should say, sorry. And then I will be running a train on this to test that they can run on this smoothly, which they should do. The ballasting was mostly used using this, which is a ballast spreader, which is made by Prozis, and it's a good bit of kit, this is. In some places I did use a teaspoon, like this one here, for a few areas where I couldn't get the ballast spreader, such as these points. I have still got a lot of this ballast left, but that's not really a problem because I may at some point in the future find a use for this. So that's going to come in handy for later on, especially if I want to do more ballast loads in wagons, for example. So never throw anything away. So once the ballast is dry, we can then test to see if the trains can run on here smoothly. And then once that's done, that's basically it for this video. Okay, so the glue is now dried. So what we can do now is to test the track, run a loco on it, to make sure that they can run on it smoothly. Okay, so the track has now been tested, and so trains run here smoothly. So that's good, happy days. I would like to say though that filming of this went smoothly, but of course, point a camera at it, things go wrong. There's a join down there somewhere that needs to be sorted out, which did cause some problems, I have to admit. But, you know, when it works, it works. And as you've seen in the video, it works. Trains go on this track smoothly, there's no rough riding or any derailments or anything like that. So that's good. So that brings me on to the end of this video. I know it's taken a while to get this video out, but it's now out there. So now that the track has now been laid and ballasted and that it works, we can now make a start on the scenery of the new tunnel, which shall be starting in part 3. It's safe to say there's definitely going to be more than 3 videos, because there is no way that I can do a video with just 3 parts showing all the scenery being done on this tunnel in one video, because I think that'll be too long and I think you guys will get bored of that, to be quite honest. So there's definitely going to be more than 3 parts. I have got the ideas. I know exactly what I'm going to be doing for the scenery on this tunnel. Oh, the only reason it's taken this long is because I wanted to wait for the weather to get cooler, to be honest, while I was working through the hot weather. So now that the weather's getting cooler, I can now make a start on the scenery. Like I say, I've got the ideas in my head, some of them of which I do need to finalise, but that's not going to be too much of a problem. But I am looking forward to getting the scenery finished on this and getting the tunnel finished. So it is going to be something rather special when finished. But thank you for watching this video anyway, and I hope you've enjoyed watching it. This might not perhaps be the most exciting of all the parts of constructing this new tunnel, but laying the track on the narrow gauge railway was important, because otherwise I wouldn't be able to run my narrow gauge stuff. So it's just as important as building the tunnel and the scenery, to be honest. So if you like what you see, then subscribe to the channel. If you wish, then feel free to post a comment, smash the like button, and check out all my other videos on the channel. And I'll see you again next time. Take care and bye for now.